Welcome back to the 2018 Golf Industry Show here in San Antonio, Texas. This part of this deal is brought to us by Lebanon Turf. I would say for a Thursday, there's still a fair amount of people wandering around. I think there's always myths that these things become ghost towns a little bit at this time. But it seems like it's become the kind of thing maybe even takes you a little bit long if you're really doing business here. And I am going to distract us no longer and get to a conversation I have been looking forward to since I was told I was asked to do this. Luke Cella is the executive director of the We Won Foundation. Greg Burleson from Augusta Country Club in Augusta, Georgia, the golf course superintendent there for how many years?
24.
24 years. So you got the boots on for a long time there. And we are here to talk about my absolute, the joy of a man I got to know in the 4 years I worked in Wisconsin, Wayne Otto. The guy who the We Won is named for. There's a great story about it. We can tell that one. I think it's good to tell. Why don't we start there? Luke. I know you from graduate student days at the U of I, developing what I still think is a pretty cool way to quantify the lie of the ball in the fairway, but you're not doing any of that stuff anymore. Managing a number of associations, including this one, the We Won. What's the standard line? I'm in an elevator with you. We don't have to make it very long because there's a richness to the life Wayne Otto lived. Let's tell the story of the name.
The name, Wayne Otto, was one of those individuals that was just beloved by all. He was a man that was small in stature, and but that didn't hold him back, right?
Yeah.
And he went on a golfing trip with some buddies, and they were in Ireland, and as the caddies do before everyone tees off, they start to bet on their players. And one of them said, "My money's on the We Won." And that was Wayne, and that name stuck.
Yeah, and how many years superintendent at Augusta Country Club, right? Augusta Country Club in Mequon, Wisconsin.
Right.
One of the great layouts along the lake there in the Milwaukee suburbs. And, you'd go visit Wayne, and he would try things like nobody else tried them. And I remember when I got there, he was running the Wisconsin Turf Association conference there for a number of years, and it was like this 100-person thing. It was really small, but it was back in the 90s when the golf boom was happening. So trade shows were big, and da-da-da. So I had come from Michigan State, where that's what they were doing.
Sure.
So I came to Wisconsin, and I had to go. Monroe Miller, sort of runs things, and that for many, many years was the guy, right? He said, well, I don't do that. You got to go talk to Wayne Otto. He does it. Just sit down and talk to him. He'll work with you. I had to go and tell Wayne. I said, Wayne, I want to completely blow this thing up and change it. He goes, good, let's do that.
Yeah, right.
Good. I mean, that's the way he was. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I wish I had more time. I'd have done that myself. That was just the kind of guy. He'd say, you got to put a lock on the fertilizer shed in the summertime. He was the master of the one-liner. And we lost him too early, right? We lost him too early, especially for a guy that, man, he's like a Forrest Gump guy. Everybody knew Wayne Otto, right? Back in the day?
I would agree.
Everybody knew Wayne Otto because he traveled around. He loved playing golf, right? So we have this legacy now, right? And it started out, as you told me earlier, when he was originally diagnosed with what ultimately took his life.
Right. He got sick. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And as a person that has that type of stature, his friends wanted to help, and he was seeking treatment that wasn't available in this country at the time.
And like many superintendent associations throughout the United States, there is always going to be a core, tight-knit group. And I think ultimately when we get to Greg to talk about this, we're going to hear that richness right away. So I want to get some of the sausage, man. I've been talking about sausage all afternoon. It's so funny.
Are you hungry?
No. It's just we get into details of how stuff's done because people here, We Won. How many people do you think know what We Won is? You're doing better.
Right.
We're doing better, but we still, the story of how it came about. So how does the fundraising go? Let's go start there. How do you do fundraising go?
So, when it was originally started, we didn't know how we were going to make funds, but the way that we generate funds is what we know, through golf, through events, through auctions, other types of fundraisers within the industry.
Right. Okay. So ultimately, the goal of the foundation is to what? Because then I'm going to let this wonderful Georgian accent start filling the room.
It's similar to what it started for. It's to assist professionals in the golf course management industry get through medical hardship. The message that I talk about is when people become ill or they become sick, no one asks for that.
No.
Right? And you're struck with that, and and if it's serious, it becomes all-encompassing, right? It takes over your whole life.
Yeah.
Everything becomes secondary.
That's right. Bad luck never has good timing.
Right? So you're
bad luck never has good time. I've never heard somebody say, man, that was a good time for that bad thing to happen.
I'm glad that happened then, right? Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you do say, well, but really bad luck, like in the case of what happened to Wayne,
sure.
right?
And many others since then. And,
right.
you know, so what the idea is, and it perpetuates and still goes on today, it's to help relieve some of that stress.
Financially at least, but also in the feelings that it gives to each of us when we can help somebody that does what we do and is suffering. So Greg, this is how you got involved. It doesn't have anything here with your name, and you know when you came up, I'm looking at him and thinking, is he a Wisconsinite? Does this guy know Rod Johnson? He looks like an age I should know him from when I worked there. No. Oh man, I'm not going to know this guy. And then you started talking from Georgia, and I'm thinking, man, this thing is going national, right? Tell us the story of how this came about, you getting involved in a new board member to the We Won Foundation.
I am a new board member, and I guess I am an outsider, and I'm trying to fit in.
Well,
I don't have a problem with that.
You're not an outsider. You engaged in this thing, and I believe that's why when those original guys concocted that idea to help Wayne, they would have imagined it would have penetrated the way it did with you guys. So let's hear it.
Well, I had a superintendent friend that had been a friend of mine for over 20 years that had a stroke of bad luck. He got diagnosed with cancer and came upon a lot of medical bills, and another friend of mine reached out to the We Won Foundation. It wasn't me, it was another friend of mine, wrote a letter. They were kind enough to give my friend some money, and I was able to deliver that, me, my wife, and the friend in person to the person in need, and it just touches you. I mean, it touches them, it touches you, it's unexpected.
Yeah.
They're just overwhelmed by the love.
That's right.
And they didn't know that was coming. So, I mean, it touches you, and you kind of get caught up in it.
That's exactly
And then, you know, the past couple of years, I've been fortunate to be president of the Georgia Golf Course Superintendents Association, and, you know, I felt like the state of Georgia needed to continue to do something. You know, they had given, the We Won had given, and that's not going to stop.
Well,
we need to pay the We Won back.
Yeah, and you guys, you know, I mean, the Georgia Golf Superintendents, that's a serious organization. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, a little regional thing with a bunch of guys who get together. We're talking about, you guys have accomplished a lot over the years as an association. I wasn't aware you were president. Thank you for the service to the industry, right? I mean, it's not like you have to do it. It's not like you're not busy doing that other job you've had for 24 years, right? Especially longer growing seasons, tougher conditions. This isn't about talking about growing grass. So you saw it work.
Did.
You got involved. How has it begun to manifest itself? I believe as part of the fundraising effort, having these tournaments, getting different people involved is critical to it. Let's hear exactly how you're imagining. You saw it work. You got on a board. And now what are you doing with the Georgia Golf Association, Superintendent Association?
Well, we use the game of golf to pay back, and we try to organize a golf tournament. You try to organize a support group for yourself of people with interest and networking who can form a committee and can make the tournament the most successful it can be. So that's what I've been able to do. I've had a committee of 7 or 8 people in the Georgia area, Augusta area, with different talents. And they bought in, and most of these people knew that person in need. And it's just overwhelmingly rewarding.
Absolutely.
And we did it in 2015 and raised $22,500, which is unbelievable.
Right, it's exactly right. And
great industry sponsors.
You know, it's the funny thing, right? You give, but you get. More than you get, right? So,
absolutely.
So this isn't the only state doing it, Luke. You mentioned a few along the way: Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, maybe another one in Pennsylvania. Have all of them followed the same sort of thing, right? People. One of the reasons we do the show is so people not here can sort of hear things. If they're, you know, impacted by this, or wow, they're watching this, and boy, wouldn't that be cool to support the We Won thing? How has it worked in these other states? Like it's worked in Georgia? Somebody needed the money and then they wanted to help.
Sometimes that happens, or, you know, and that's been some of the history with we'll give a gift to somebody in need that is a new state. Sometimes it's because they know the event will follow the money or vice versa. You know, there's no set way that it happens, but I think the important thing is the We Won Foundation has become the conduit for people to help. People want to help. Our industry is like any other, right?
That's right.
And we try to make it simple. We try to make it easy. Somebody calls up and says, hey, we've got an individual in need, and we start to ask questions. Well, is there an opportunity to do something to get more people involved? What is the immediate need? If there's a need and there's money in the bank, we're getting it in that person's hand. But if there's other ways that we can involve more people in a different region.
And just helping each other.
Kind of, right.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And of course, to be honest, it's low-hanging fruit holding a golf tournament. It's low-hanging fruit.
We know that business, right?
Yeah, we know that business pretty well. So I do think have there been other ways? Have some local chapters, I would imagine, again, I know Rod's got it going on at Pine Hills, holds the tournament every year.
One of the successful ones that we conduct, it's at the Midwest, the other association that I help and manage. We do an auction at one of our chapter meetings. And so our sponsors will donate products and services, our superintendents will donate rounds of golf and professional tickets, and all that money goes right to the We Want.
That's right. And so let's talk about that for a second. So are you right now able to meet those needs because as we ended the last part of our conversation, see how quick 15 minutes goes? As we enter the last part of our conversation, we've been talking about sort of getting it in place and making sure it happens, but if you need help, right, it's not always easy to do. Let's talk about that sensitive subject. Did that person come forward to you guys and tell you what happened?
No, they did not. I think they're very proud. They're not going to do that. It usually takes, in private, it usually takes a close acquaintance or a friend to do that.
Great, okay. So if you know someone in need, if maybe you're not going to do it, you know someone in need, reach out.
Right.
You just start, hey, what's the worst he's going to say? No. I think you're not any worse off than you were when you picked up the phone, right?
Call Luke, write a letter, get on the we1.org website.
That's right. There you go. There's lots of ways to get at this, but I guess I really want to ask, have you ever had to say, we can't do it?
There's situations, there's certain qualifications that we do have. We're, for the most part, along the management line, we'd love to be able to help crew members. But we're just not there yet. No. We're not that big. So those are the ones that, because we just don't have the funds to do that.
Well, and I got to tell you, the challenge to everybody here is that who wants that? We need our equipment technicians. We need our assistant superintendents. They're not any less important in any organization at that moment, to a certain extent, than the golf course superintendent.
No, and they've been involved.
Key people.
So our technicians we've done and assistants have been helped. Right. Those families have been helped. And
well, I'm making a shout because we want see all these big signs. All these. I think that guy Coke has a fair amount of money. I'm gonna get they're never going to let me in front of a camera again, I think. Anyway, it seems to me this is the kind of thing that whether it touches you or not, it's not a hard sell.
You know what?
It's not a hard sell.
My challenge to anyone out in our industry is, why would you say no? Why would you say no to the We Want? Because it's impacting lives directly, and it's the things that we don't think about.
That's exactly
when life is going well and you're healthy and things are great, you don't think about those little things of, how am I going to pay for daycare because my other child's ill and I need to drive 200 miles.
And I want to, as we wrap it up here, I want you to talk more about that, because the people who listen and know that they can have a friend who they think is not going to say if he's having a hard time. Again, there's nothing more than say, listen, everything's all right. Don't worry about it, because you got enough things to worry about. It's a very tough conversation for the person asking that question, as well as the person who doesn't want to have that question asked, right? So as we give you the last word, because I think it's a really powerful way to end. How hard was those conversations?
Well,
for you going in?
I mean, with our first recipient, I didn't have those conversations. We just did it.
You just did.
We just did it because we knew he was in need. We knew he was a very humble, unselfish guy.
You didn't tell him
he wasn't
you were down the road.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, good
and that's
for you
why it
guys.
was so powerful.
What a pleasure meeting you,
Pleasure
Luke,
meeting you.
as always. We are here, GCSAA TV Live at the Golf Industry Show, the 2018 Golf Industry Show in San Antonio, Texas. And we are going inside the ropes to the Erin Hills Golf Club, the site of the 2017 U.S. Open. I was there messing around on the putting greens. They don't let me do too much when I go. I'm Frank Rossi. This stage is brought to you by Lebanon Turf. We'll be back in a little bit.